Hello, everyone, and welcome to Engadget's post-show live recap of Apple's Unleashed event. I am reviews editor Sherlyn Lowe. Joining me to talk about all of this news today is senior editor Devendra Hardwar. Hey, Dev.
Hello, new MacBook Day. It's so exciting. So many cool
Apple
things. Yeah.
Day.
Yeah.
To start off a very big week for us and Apple's Unleashed event. Did you feel unleashed, Dev? Did you feel
I
very
felt
unleashed?
like, when I reviewed last year's MacBook Pro, the M1, it felt leashed. It felt held
Oh,
back by some of the power. So
oh,
actually the phrase unleashed for these new chips and all the new stuff they're putting into the new MacBooks, I think is very apt. Like, yes, it feels unleashed to me.
okay.
Hmm.
We will dig into all of that in a little bit, but we're watching the live chat for comments and your questions. Want to shout out to the people already here. Thanks for joining us
Hello.
today. Yes. Hi to Jonathan Anderson, who asked Devin Sherlin, how's it going? Michael Brescher Jr. is here. Chris Angelo Perez is saying good evening from Manila. We've got the return of Mark Dell, one of our
All our
favorites.
all our faves.
All our faves are here and some new people. And we're going to keep shouting out to you guys throughout the stream. And also, for those of you who are relying on closed captioning, that will kick in a couple of minutes, which is when we're going to just
Yeah.
really dig into
Right at
the
2
new
p.m.
stuff.
Eastern. We're almost there.
We're almost there. We hire people to do these things. We got to wait till, they got to start working at the time we pay them to work, IOZ Kerr TV, I think.
Hello.
Oscar TV says, what's up from Chicago?
What's up? Please drop any questions you guys have because we're chit-chatting right now. We're still like
Yes.
absorbing the details too.
Yes.
So what happens is these events happen, right? And I see all these specs. I'm like, oh, cool. And we're just like responding. And
Yeah.
then by the time it gets to our podcast episode or something, we have absorbed it and can like think about what all this means.
Yeah.
So right now we're in the excitement phase, just so you all
We
know.
are. We're like, finally, it's real and out. Shout out to DC147, a lurker. Hey, if you're a lurker, we appreciate you. You don't have to say anything, but if you're a lurker who hasn't said anything, we still appreciate you. Thank you for lurking and being around. A lot of people are saying goodbye, touch bar. And how do
Goodbye,
we feel
Touch Bar.
about the notch?
I'm not upset about that. Yeah.
About the touch bar or the notch?
About losing the touch bar or the notch. The notch is not that big a deal, and I'll talk about why. We've seen a couple solutions from other laptop people that are worse,
Yeah.
I'd say.
It feels like people in the chat are like very excited about what happened. Mike Jones Jr. said Notchbook Pro.
Notchbook Pro.
Okay.
Listen, I mean, and we'll talk about all this, but last year's M1 MacBook Pro was kind of a letdown, like given the amount of power and everything. So yeah, we will dive into all this. Are we good to go? We will go from the top, everybody. So in the order that Apple announced things, we'll just chat.
Yeah. So basically, we started with music stuff. Okay. Apple wanted this event to be all about music and Mac, and with the surprise announcement of a new plan for Apple Music called Apple Music Voice, where basically you only need to talk to Siri to get your music playing on your speakers, and it's $4.99 a month. Devendra, you rightly pointed out that Amazon Echo have had certain similar.
Amazon does this thing where you can get a really cheap subscription just to one Echo, right? So if you have an Echo in your bedroom and you don't want a whole Amazon Music subscription, you could just get it for that. So I think Tidal is doing something similar. So not too surprising we're seeing this, but it is probably a better deal than some of those other things because it's not just one device. It's like all of your devices tied to your iCloud. You can use Siri. The problem for me is that Siri voice commanding is not good, especially if you're getting foreign artists or you're getting artists that Siri cannot quite understand. I guess we'll see what the limits of that are. Yeah.
We're going to power through the music stuff, but it sounds like people are very excited about the Macs. But there were still very interesting music things, like a new HomePod Mini, which cost the same $99 as before. We got some
new colors.
Yeah. They're so cute and pretty.
They're so cute. And they're so like at $99, they're like, yeah, sure. Why don't I just get one of those? Just to have it, just to play with it. Ideally you get two for, stereo and whatnot. Sound. But yeah, I need to spend some time with those. I love speakers, and my dream is actually to get a couple of those and maybe find a used old HomePod and maybe get some use out of that because the hardware was good, the software was not. But man, these are cool. I like the colors.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I don't know really like any like serious technical updates with them. I think there's spatial audio support.
Spatial audio, new design, looks a little bit like the AirPods Pro, but there aren't any like tips. There aren't any silicone
Mm.
tips.
Oh, we're
So
talking AirPods now, are we?
yeah.
AirPods third generation is here. We've been waiting forever. They're finally here. Yes, spatial audio and the tips and the redesign, like Devendra said, to be more like the Pro.
Yep.
Battery life also at 6 hours of listening time. With the charging case, that'll get you up to 30 hours. And then if you
Mm-hmm.
want, you can get an hour's use with 5 minutes of charging. Is that's what Apple is saying. And then they're going to start at $179. So,
Mm-hmm.
Def, are you a big AirPods user?
I mean, hey, we've talked about this on the podcast. Like, the normal AirPods are very bad for my ears. They just don't stay.
Oh.
I would be interested to see how these new AirPods, because the shape of them are more like the Pros. Maybe they'd sit
Mm-hmm.
in better. But I have the Pros. I've been using the Pros forever, and if I am running out the door or I just want to listen to a podcast, those are always the earbuds I reach for first. So that
Right.
tells you something. And for me, they're the
Right.
ones I naturally gravitate towards. So I like
Yeah.
those.
Yeah.
They're
For me,
cool.
it's the
Get them when
Pixel
they're on
Buds.
sale.
That's what I do. But yes.
Really?
Yes. Anyway, these will, yes, like Devendra said, definitely go down in price for sure at some point.
Reduce the AirPods Max.
Especially
The AirPods Max should not. They're still
except for those.
$549.
Yeah.
We just saw Sony's. If you look at Engadget.com, there's a sale on the new Sony headphones. Those things are like $250 now and sound better. What are you doing, Apple? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's the Apple tax.
Have you
Can
people in the comments? Has anybody heard people talking about the AirPods Max? Do you own the AirPods Max? Like, these things got released and just kind of disappeared,
yeah.
like tears in the
Who
rain.
knows?
I don't know.
We're waiting on chat to say something, and the people are still pretty we're getting to the max now, but yes.
We'll get to them.
We're we'll get back to you if anyone actually brings up the AirPods Max. But it sounds like nobody has seen anyone using the AirPods Max out in public. For one, the price is
Nope.
crazy. And yeah, nobody that Mike Varela knows anyway talks about them. So shrug. Okay. I think that was it for the music stuff. We're gonna dig into Apple's Mac and M1 Pro and M1 Max news. Devendra, I feel like this is all you. Take it away, starting with the Apple Silicon stuff.
Well, so the new chips are the M1 Pro and the M1 Max, MAX, which are going to be going the new Max.
Max, I think.
MACS.
No. I think the name was MAX too. Yeah. The M1
yeah,
Pro
that's what I'm
M1
saying.
Max.
And they're going to be going in the new MacBook Pro, in the new Max, MACS. I know, Sherlyn, you're new to Apple and you're coming from Google land, but it's we just go MACS. But these chips look cool. They look really good, right? They're super powerful. They're both 10 core processors, 8 high-speed cores, 2 high-efficiency cores, high efficiency meaning low power or low speed and whatnot. The big difference is I think this is sort of like how Intel does the Core i5 or maybe it's more like the Core i7 and the Core i9. The M1 Pro looks like it supports up to 32 gigabytes of memory, and all that memory is built right into the chip. That is kind of how Apple designs these things. So there aren't RAM modules anywhere on these computers. And the M1 Max supports up to 64 gigabytes of memory, and that's all built in. So, what is really cool is that they showed off 2 new MacBook Pro models, right? The first time we're getting a 14-inch MacBook Pro, and you can get both of these chips in that smaller model. And I think that's pretty interesting because before, I believe if you wanted the i9, you had to go up to the bigger Mac. Whereas now, hey, you can get a nice portable MacBook Pro with the most power available with a ton of RAM. I'm not quite sure how production software, like video editing software and 3D software, I'm not sure if they fully updated to the new ARM-based architecture Apple's relying on here. I know a lot of Intel people who have a lot of Mac software are still on Intel machines because of those things they need to use. Maybe compatibility is better. I need to talk to people who actually do this stuff for a living. But the sheer power of this thing seems pretty good. Apple says it's up to 1.7 times faster. These chips are up to 1.7 times faster than a comparable 8-core chip, probably from Intel. But yeah, I'm looking forward to testing these eventually. These things are cool. They're cool, really cool. They address all the problems we've had with MacBook Pros, right?
Yes, I mean, part part of that was also, I think, the thermal design they were talking a
Mhm.
little bit about. I believe there's still fans in these things, right? I'm sorry, I was in
Oh,
and out of the
definitely.
keynote a little bit.
Definitely. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
these need fans, but they still were able to get some like, I don't know, space savings out of it.
Mhm.
But the other thing they also upgraded, it seems like, were the screens. My favorite is when Apple, does its usual spiel on new things. They're like astounding, staggering, these big ass words. Like, I
Good
get it.
copywriting, sure. They know what
Yeah,
they're doing.
well done. There's a good few questions in the chat. I'm gonna fire your way, Sam.
Mhm.
Mike, I think Varela, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Said they never mentioned a threat count. Do you know what the threat count might be like on this? Is that something that they haven't shared yet at all, Dev?
Oh, that's like so the workload threads. I
Yeah.
don't believe Macs do the sort of thing where Intel like
Mm-hmm.
doubles up your thread count because of hyper-threading. Like it takes your cores and it doubles them because that's how it manages workflows. I don't believe Apple's doing that. But
Okay.
also that stuff has always been kind of wishy-washy and weird. Like you're getting like enough high-powered cores here where
Mm-hmm.
this can go toe-to-toe with a comparable 8-core chip.
Yeah.
Certainly what I saw from last year's M1, that was an 8-core chip,
Mm-hmm.
just the plain M1, and that thing blew away like Ryzen chips and Intel's fastest chips. And that was when I was testing it on the MacBook Air. So I am really excited to see what happens when you put these in powerful laptops, and
Yeah.
we'll see like can Intel's 11th gen or AMD's latest stuff really compete with this. I guess we'll see. Hopefully we'll be testing these out soon. Like my schedule's cleared. I'm waiting to test out these new laptops because I'm just very excited to see how they work. Yeah.
um there's another question about what is our opinion on them not adding Face ID to the Mac. First of all,
Fine.
I wasn't up to speed on any rumors that this might be coming, so I
They were
wasn't
saying that maybe for
awaiting.
the camera, like maybe that's why the notch is there, but
Gotcha.
who it
So,
yeah, yeah.
I mean, sure, Windows Hello has been using IR sensors for a while, but like
Yeah.
this is a laptop that just got a 1080p camera. I mean, come on, like
Apple's a little slow around all
gonna
that
take a
stuff.
while. The
Gonna take a
components,
while.
yeah,
Listen, I'll say
are gonna be
pray like I'm very glad these finally have 1080p cameras. The MacBook Pro
right.
cameras and the MacBook camera in general have been kind of disasters for the past couple of years for no reason. So sure, 1080p is great.
Right.
Yeah,
They're
it's
saying
fine.
better
The
low light
fingerprint sensor is
performance. Yeah.
fine. Like
Yeah.
it's Macs have not had the built-in facial recognition like Windows 10 did, and that's how Windows Hello kind of became a thing. I do love that feature when it
Yeah.
works, but it's not like mission critical for me.
Yeah. I mean, I
Mhm.
agree. I don't need Face ID on a laptop for now. But I mean, if they ever edit, it'll be fine. I like Windows Hello Face Sign In on Windows
Mhm.
machines, but not
Yeah.
critical, like Devinder
So
said.
let me defend the notch here because I see the
Go ahead.
haters coming and the rumors were happening over the weekend too. I was like, "Oh, this is exciting. Is Apple kind of gonna go kind of crazy here?" And this notch, it's not a big deal. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't take up a significant amount of real estate compared to an iPhone,
iPhone,
where it
right?
takes up a huge chunk of
Yeah.
the top of your screen. They did the smart thing where you can still take advantage of the screen around it, so the menu is up there. And I think the
Yeah.
main thing is we've been complaining about MacBook cameras for so long. Like
Yes.
if they need space to put in a bigger sensor, you will appreciate that more than that sliver of screen space that you get
Mm.
there. Some companies have been able to create like really small webcams. Like I know Dell's has been able to,
HP also, yeah.
yeah, HP, all the people who've been doing really thin border laptops for a while, they figured
Mm-hmm.
it out. But those cameras are really tiny. They don't look that great. They're fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think if Apple wants to make a big step up, if it's like a couple millimeters bigger and you have this like little notch in the middle, it's fine. It's not the end
Yeah.
of the world, and I think it's a better trade-off.
Yeah.
Certainly, sure. I wish there was
Yeah.
no notch, but this notch is only on the 14-inch model. So if you're really concerned about this, the
Wait,
16
are
inch
the
has no
bezels
notch.
larger on the 16-inch? Is that why?
I think it's just because they have more
More
room.
screen.
Like they have more
Mm,
room to work with.
okay.
So that's kind of the main thing. It is nice to see thinner bezels in general on both of these
Yeah. Yeah.
MacBooks. When I reviewed
Exactly.
the MacBook Pro 16-inch 2 years ago, I called it the ultimate Apple laptop because it definitely felt like that. It had everything I wanted: a great keyboard, beautiful screen, and they
Yeah.
really like cut down on those bezels. So this seems like a step forward in that
Yeah.
respect. Yeah.
Can I just bring up a point? I think a lot of people are forgetting that it took the PC world. The PC world wanted to minimize bezels too. So like this is
Yep.
Apple trying to do that. It took the PC world like a whole up your nose camera, a hidden in the keyboard pop-up camera. Like the PC side of things took
PCs
forever to
have done
figure out how
so
to
many
make this
things.
work.
I think
Yeah.
the
So
Zephyrus S13 that I reviewed,
yeah.
the Asus laptop, it's like the opposite of this. They made like a top notch. So there's this
Like
little
like
thing
a
that
pop-up.
stuck out.
Yeah.
It was a pop-up notch. And I kind of hated that because it felt like I am always hitting this when I'm opening and shutting it. It feels really fragile. Compared to a nose cam below the screen, like
Yeah.
XP, like Dell was doing, compared to pop-up cameras or something, like this is fine.
Huawei
No
Mac
moving
MateBook.
parts.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I
Oh my
think like
gosh.
people aren't going to have a big deal with this one. Certainly it's a thing you can make fun of, but I think those other PC solutions, the nose camera was unforgivable. That with
I
the worst camera
know.
angle in the world. You would never want to use
So
that camera. Mhm.
so it sounds like the 16-inch might also have a notch. Some people
I wasn't
in the
seeing.
chat are saying, but we can double check that really quickly. I just want to say
Mhm.
in the grand scheme, I'm not too bothered by a notch in favor of smaller bezels on something like a laptop. I will say that on a phone, definitely it annoys me a lot more.
Mhm.
But a lot of people again like Psycho in the comment in the chat are saying quite validly that there's no face ID.
Yeah.
But again, once again, the company is taking some time to catch up, right? Like they've given you a 1080p. They're still working on face ID. They're getting there.
Mhm.
So we'll have to, I think, wait for next generations to see more improvements.
You know why I think I thought there was no notch because there are some screenshots and some footage where
The
apps
wallpaper.
don't use the top bar at all. So like I'm
uh,
looking at like video editing apps where it's just completely black. And
right.
then at that
Where it
point
hides out.
you don't know if there's notch there or not. So okay,
Uh,
my bad, but it's still not a huge
yeah.
deal. A lot
Yeah.
of I'm looking at like Pro Logic screens and stuff. I'm looking at the Apple newsroom right now. If
Yeah.
you black out the entire top of the screen, then then you don't see the notch. But hey, that means you could do that too. You don't have to see the menus, and you could
Yeah.
just
And
make that
also,
notch
yeah,
disappear.
it's also what phones did way in the back, way back when they were trying to figure that out. Anyway, we'll come back to the notch when we get to test these things. And see whether they
So
really
excited.
get in the way of
So
anything.
excited. Yeah.
Another thing I thought was interesting, Dev, was the Magic Keyboard. What do you think? Have you had experience with that thing?
I mean, it is it any different? Because here's the thing, folks, just so you know, like as these events are happening, we are also writing our own news
Yeah.
stories. So it's like
Yeah.
things get missed, and I'm just like
We're
catching up
catching
on
up
certain
now,
degrees. I love the Magic keyboards in the last several computers. The 16-inch MacBook Pro and I believe the M1s also like basically had that. They're saying it's new keyboard. They're just saying it's
I
a new
believe
keyboard,
they're talking about
tactile feel of mechanical keys. Yeah.
I think they're talking about something like the standalone Magic keyboard on the keyboard of this thing.
This looks different.
Guys,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we're all like figuring out what's going on here because we haven't touched a MacBook yet, so we can't tell you much more.
The keyboard looks different. People have been asking about the touch bar, and hey,
death of the touch bar.
Kill the touch bar.
Never found it useful.
Nobody needs it. It's fine. Give me function keys. This keyboard does look a lot more. It's a lot wider and bigger than the current one. So yeah, sure. Give me more.
Never really had an issue with Apple's keyboards other than the ones that kept breaking way back when. Not way back when. Quite recently, 2 years ago. I'll be intrigued to see if it all happens again with this switch to a new keyboard.
I mean, so there was a ton of stories about that where they redesigned these new ones to lose the butterfly switch basically and go like have a better redesigned switch that doesn't fail as easily. And they also have like a decent amount of depth. So they feel good. Probably better than any MacBook Pro you felt before like 2018. Yeah.
Okay. So one thing that kept coming up, by the way, in the chat was pricing and how the prices are so different from last year's model. I have a few caveats to share, but let's start with the 14-inch model. That starts now at $19.99.
Wow,
that's a heck of a lot more than what was like $1,300 for the 13-inch.
It was
before.
Yeah, it was $1,300 for the MacBook Pro 13-inch before. A Razer Blade starts at $1,700. You know, the 14-inch Razer Blade, the Razer Blade 14, which is very similarly sized, is like $1,800. I believe. Like that
Yeah.
is wow.
Holy crap. I mean, like,
Yeah.
look, I will admit to not being a MacBook laptop, a MacBook user, so I don't even know generally the ballpark of the starting prices. I thought the MacBook Air, I think, was like 999 more or
The
less.
Air is usually 999, and maybe
Yeah.
the reason the last MacBook, the M1, wasn't that expensive was because that was aiming to be slightly lower powered. Like Apple has
Right.
always had like the basic MacBook Pro, which was
Yeah.
always just a step above the MacBook Air, and then the more powerful models. And last year we never saw a more powerful, like the MacBook Pro 16-inch was completely untouched last year. So you were getting old Intel chips on that machine if you ended up buying it. So
Yeah.
yeah, this is probably inevitable.
I
Given the power in these things, maybe worth it. Yeah.
so that's not even so the caveat I was trying to point out to you or point
Hmm.
out here
Hmm.
is our executive editor is also kind of just messaging me on the side saying this $1999 model, you're not even getting the 10 core CPU. You're getting
Yeah.
the 8 core
Yep.
CPU with a 14 core GPU instead of the 16 core model. We're looking at the
Very wild.
pricing
Yeah.
on Apple's website right now, and that's what you get. So
Hmm. The
again,
key,
it
by the
seems like
way, the 13
go
inch
ahead.
is still sticking around. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Like this is not replacing the 13-inch, so you have that option if you want it. So that's why that is still $1,300. It
Mhm.
can go up to $1,500.
So if we go over to the
Yeah.
14-inch one, we can
Yeah.
see like the starting price and the specs for that. You'll see that it starts with an
Hmm.
8-core CPU at 1999, not the 10-core
Hmm.
that was being marketed as like this
Yeah.
big M1
We should
Pro.
say, yeah, whenever we talk about cores, it's always like up to. So up to 10 cores, up
Right.
to this amount of RAM or something, because you'll always have
Yeah.
options. Yeah.
So always remember that the base model, the price doesn't always match up
Hmm.
to what you're being told, I guess is the big takeaway
Uh-huh.
today.
That's wild. I
But
mean, these are pro machines. Like these are basically the price
yeah.
that you would have paid for like maybe a Mac Pro, a couple of years ago or something, is now that power is in a laptop. So hey,
I'm
that's not too bad, right?
I'm
I don't know.
dying. I'm laughing at the kidney chat going on in our chat. We've got we've got Mo A saying frack it, I'm selling my good kidney. Michael Brescher is saying soon these computers will cost both our kidneys. And then Mercedes just going kidney for sale, kidney for sale. You guys, that's amazing. Yeah,
Oh
okay.
man.
I don't know what the going rate for kidney is, and I do not support the
It's
illegal sale of
it's you could get you won't be able to enjoy that money probably. But hey, as far as powerful laptops go, I think the 16-inch is a little more expensive, right? It starts at 2499. It's a
right
little more expensive than the
than
previous
last year's.
16-inch. That started at 2300.
Yeah.
But for that amount of power, then yeah, you're it's either your company or you're working for a movie studio or something, like
Right.
somebody who will just pay as much power as possible to
Yeah.
give you all that hardware too. So, they're to me that sort of thing is worth it. I'm just thinking about the entry level consumer who's
Yeah.
just like these computers probably aren't for you. I think that's the
Like
main takeaway. Yeah.
I will tell you this, like I looked at the presentation and I was like, "Oh
Hmm.
crap, maybe I really do want a MacBook Pro." Cuz I mean, I'm my experience with MacBooks has been generally limited to like MacBook Airs and the one MacBook Air I bought myself ages ago. I've also got an M1 machine that I'm just playing around with just to see what performance is, and I
Hmm.
think that's a Pro. But I looked at this presentation, I'm like, "Oh, okay,
Hmm.
okay, this
Oh,
performance seems
it's
oh,
nice.
oh,
It looks
that
nice.
price tag. Chat,
Mm.
y'all tell us what you would rather buy with 1999, like $2,000. What would you rather pay for? Because I'd rather
I
pay my rent.
Sure, but that's not fair, right? That's not fair
No, I
because if
know.
you want
Yeah,
this for work, if you want a killer gaming laptop, people spend $2,000 to three thousand
true.
dollars, right? So if you want the best possible Mac you can to get your video editing done or your 3D rendering or something like that,
Yeah.
time is money. So a machine that works faster will be more valuable to you in the long run. We didn't really
I
talk about the
guess
screens and stuff on this, but
yes.
the screens look
We
nice too.
sort of talked,
Hmm.
yeah, this promotion now it goes up to I believe 120 hertz again,
Hmm.
like on the
Yay.
phones, which I will always remind y'all that promotion is just a word without the uppercase M. It's just promotion. Um,
Yeah.
but the screens also have what like million to one contrast ratio now. Wow.
Basically, like I don't it's not Is it OLED? I don't think it's actually OLED, but it's
I don't think it's
basically
actually
OLED
OLED.
quality, right?
There's mini LED. There's a layer
Hmm.
of mini LED lighting, and
Yeah.
then there's a layer on top of it that I can't remember if they said it was LCD. I remember they said it was another layer on
Mini
top of
LED
it.
makes sense. So yeah, so
Yeah.
the specs we're hearing sound like it's coming from an OLED screen, but if
Mm.
you go back to our CES coverage from the last couple years, when we were actually at CES, we were hearing about mini LED laptops, and we knew those things were going to be getting like super super bright. So
Hmm.
we're starting to see those now. This is kind of what's happening. Mini LED,
Yep.
there's a lot of cool potential with that tech if you don't want to pay for OLED.
Yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
we again, we're talking about machine we haven't seen. I
Yeah,
would love for you to see them in person, Devendra, and then do your testing, your
soon.
reviewing,
I
let
don't
us
know.
know. I'm excited about that footprint, like the 16-inch Pro. It
Hmm.
looks thin. I wonder how light it's gonna be, and then how much power Apple has managed to cram in there. I mean, like for the pros, can an ARM-based CPU really give us the sort of power we're looking for?
Did you see my benchmarks last year, Sheila?
I mean, I heard
Did
that's
you
the thing. Like,
do you
I'm very,
remember?
I remember,
Yeah.
I'm very optimistic. Like, I think they will do good. I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
I am waiting to see them embarrass the crap
Sure.
out of Qualcomm and Intel, right? Like
I
with an
think they
ARM
totally did
design.
that last year. So everybody
They
go
did.
back, go read our review of the MacBook Air, the M1 equipped MacBook Air. I just every time I ran a benchmark I was at, I was like, holy shit. This basically is just like you are so much faster than a gaming
Right.
laptop, than Intel's fastest chips. And that was in a fanless little tiny ultra
Yeah.
portable. So
Yeah.
I think Apple proved themselves last year, but yeah, certainly let's see what's going on if they can actually
I
scale it. That's the question.
Right. Yeah,
Hmm.
based on last year's performance, I think this year will be great, obviously, too. I'm just like, okay, let's see. We haven't had the machines at all, is what I'm saying.
Hmm.
We can't promise you anything on
Yeah,
Apple's
I
behalf.
mean, so they're being released next week. Hopefully, we'll hear something, see something. Like, hopefully, we will get some impressions in by the month.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
I'm going back into the chat to see what else. People are just bringing up a lot of comparisons, which
Hmm.
is, fair. I enjoyed the kidney chat, but we're not going to bring that back.
Sorry if you're spamming the chat. I will have to block you just to just so
Yeah,
we can actually see the rest of
do
the
not
chat.
spam. Yes.
Yeah.
Um yes, we are going through and modding. A lot of people are asking if we can run Crisis, if we can run Minecraft.
Hey,
Did you bring in
I
Minecraft?
ran games on the M1 MacBook Air, and they ran pretty well. Yeah, you can't, most of the Steam library, like a lot of games just don't run on Mac since
Yeah,
really not on these new chips, but
right.
maybe developers will start to take a closer look. When I ran some of the Apple Arcade games on the MacBook Air, like they ran like
Mm,
butter, like 60 FPS. The graphics looked really good. So certainly, like if the MacBook Air can give you better graphics and like a low level Nvidia or AMD card, I'm sure the pros are going to be fine.
yeah.
It will actually be
There's
able to run Crisis in other games.
there are two
Hmm.
things that the chat reminded me of. One,
Hmm.
Adi Ravishankar says Intel's Alder Lake is reported to be faster than the M1. Have you heard anything?
Sure. I don't know. Whatever they say, whatever that. This is it's kind of like a cold war between Intel and Apple
Mhm.
and AMD at this point, where like somebody will whisper to somebody like, "We're faster. Don't worry, this benchmark proves that we're actually faster," and then that gets reported. So listen, folks, until you see specs, until you see benchmarks from people you trust,
Yeah,
just
I
sit tight.
agree. I
Alder Lake
agree.
sounds cool. Alder Lake is a very
It does
cool
sound cool.
sounding idea. Yeah.
I agree. It does sound
Hmm.
intriguing. The other thing that I was reminded by and want to bring up is they managed to add ports, Devendra, to the
Uh huh.
pros. What's
Weird
your
thing that
favorite?
Apple admits they were wrong, basically,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. They brought back MagSafe too. Yeah,
They brought back
exactly.
MagSafe. We've got an SD card reader, which is the thing.
Holy
I will
shit.
like honestly deduct entire points from a laptop review. If like you don't have the basic thing and you're trying to be a productivity laptop, like I need to be able to plug in a camera or something, or my camera card. So yeah, great. And also a better headphone jack. I did not expect that. It's a headphone jack that is like powerful enough to handle high impedance headphones. Normally,
Insane.
you would need like an audio DAC or something for
Yes.
that. So Apple, the company that started, forcing everybody to remove headphone jacks from their phones, is
Yeah.
has a
Yep.
better headphone jack on their computer. It's just hilarious to me. There's HDMI, there's
Yep.
Thunderbolt 4, of
Three
course,
USB-Cs. Yep.
3 USB-Cs. I don't I need to fully look into some of this stuff. I don't know if like eGPUs are supported yet, because that was
Mm.
a deficiency on last year's MacBook Pro. But I guess we'll see. There's a lot of stuff we have to dig into. We have to talk to Apple and like start testing this hardware and see what's possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Speaking of testing, one of the things that we will always test in a review is battery life. Apple is claiming up to 21
Hmm.
hours, I believe, on the 14-inch MacBook Pro. And I mean, that seems in line with pretty much every ARM-based laptop I've seen or heard. And I think the M1 MacBook got
Hmm.
pretty good battery life too, Devindra, when you tested that.
I mean, yeah, the both the
So,
Air and the, I think what was cool is like it lasted a long time in our battery test, but also when I was just doing work, like browsing
mhm,
the internet, going on Slack and everything, just working, the
mhm.
battery just would not stop. Like it would just stay
It
fine.
wouldn't budge. Yeah.
It would
Yeah.
not budge for like I think 12 straight hours of work, which is different from our benchmark, which is just looping a video.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
that was the big strength. Like it really showed it knew how to like be very efficient even while I'm actually doing things on the computer.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised. They're talking some much higher battery life levels now.
I love it. I also
Mhm.
love just the all the shade they were throwing at Intel the whole time. They were not being very subtle about it too. They're like, no
That's
PC
fine.
has ever been this fast. No PC has ever been able to do this and that. And I was like, okay, cool, yeah, all right, cool. I
There
love the shade.
when you're winning, you can gloat it, I guess. So good job, Apple.
Well done. Another question that keeps coming up, the Byte Walker reminded me is they were expecting a new Mac Mini dev. Were you expecting
Hmm.
a new Mac Mini?
It would be nice to see. And I do feel
Mm-hmm.
like I think the rumors are maybe next year we would see like an upgraded maybe like an M2. But
Mm-hmm.
what is happening now is I think Apple has basically created this like division among its chips where maybe the next new like super efficient chip that's maybe a redesign of the architecture will go to the Air, will go to the Mini,
Mm.
and then they save these higher tier ones for the Mac Pro and the MacBook Pros. Um, so maybe that's how they're doing it. So
Yeah.
even if there is an M2 chip early next year, is the rumor for the MacBook Air, it
Mm-hmm.
probably won't be as fast as these like Pro and Max chips. It's just it's getting more confusing, but I think the price will make it all make sense for people. If you
Yeah.
get the cheap desktop replacement, it's not going to be as fast as the very expensive laptop or the very expensive Mac Pro.
Yeah.
I am interested to see what's going to happen with the Mac Pro with this, because that is what these chips are really built for. Yeah.
Right. Well, the
Mhm.
we'll see. Um Now Mo A brings up Apple did say that there are going to did Apple say there are going to be 3 to 4 Apple events. I just
I
want
don't
to say
remember
that
hearing that. Yeah.
yeah, I don't remember hearing that, but I just want to say that the first thing Tim Cook started with was welcome to our second event in a month. And I was like, that's a
Yeah.
weird flex, bro. A very weird flex. Go
Weird
away.
flex.
um, calm down. But do you think this is all we have left to expect from Apple this year?
This year, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
There's
have
nothing
to.
left.
There's a lot of reportings about how the supply chain is really messed up right now. Like, who knows if you want something for Christmas, if you'll actually be able to get it in time or order it. So
Right.
they cannot be introducing new products down to the wire. Certainly not a thing that requires an event. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, if anything we hear from now on, it'll probably be things like software updates, releases of things like SharePlay that still
Hmm.
haven't released on iOS 15 yet,
Yeah.
Fitness Plus with SharePlay
A
as
bunch of
well,
stuff.
a whole
Oliver, let
bunch
me
of
just shout
stuff.
this out. Oliver is asking,
Hmm.
what does a unified memory mean? And
Ah,
that's one thing that is cool about these chips is that all the memory modules are right there on the actual package, along with the GPU and the processor and everything. So that means there's less distance between everything, and that's an advantage because on a normal laptop you have your CPU, or it could be like an AMD combination chip, and your RAM is on a separate thing and it's connected to the chip and it's further away, and that all those little things make the entire experience slower and makes memory bandwidth a lot less. So
mm.
having it all like in a place and all these computers can just like go run to each other, all these things can talk to each other really quickly, that adds to snappier experience overall.
So it's mostly about
Yeah.
location. It's not about the combination of RAM with storage, which is a whole other thing.
It's not storage, but somebody mentioned it's shared GPU and CPU memory. That's true. That's technically true too. Like it
That's
is
the
memory that
unification
is
part.
all addressable to all these things all at once. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that helped, Oliver. Um, lots of people just commenting at this point in the chat. It looks like someone said there was no update for the long awaited iPod Touch, which excuse me.
Excuse you. We're
Well
all
done.
waiting.
Deep
Listen,
cut. Deep
deep
cut.
cut. Give us some time to process all of this information, people. We will be talking more about this on the Engadget podcast. Just so you all know, that's happening later this week.
Yes.
We usually record that live around 10 a.m. Eastern, right here on the Engadget YouTube channel, and also subscribe to that podcast. You can hear me and Sherlyn chat about all this stuff and fight about what actually matters and what's an upgrade. Yeah,
And
should be fun.
more,
And
because let's
more.
not forget tomorrow is
Oh
Google's
God.
Pixel event. So if you care
Yeah.
about phones and Android phones, tomorrow is a big one to watch. And we will also be streaming that event here. Me and senior editor Jess Condit. We are gonna be here live 1 p.m. or slightly earlier than that, actually. 12:40 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. My brain
Are
doesn't
you
work with
talking over
times
the whole
anymore.
thing? Is that what's happening?
We're gonna stream the whole thing. We're not gonna be talking over
Okay.
all of it. We're gonna have a pre-show where we talk and chill and hang out. We're gonna watch together and
Cool.
have a watch
Cool.
party, and then we'll answer questions after. And then definitely come to the podcast Thursday because we'll go over everything that happened this week, plus Samsung's event on Wednesday, plus other tricks up our sleeve. We got plenty of those. So it's a busy week. It's y'all write in your journal tonight and
Yeah. Write in your journal. Hey, write in your email client and send us a question at podcast@engadget.com, because then that gives us stuff to think about for the actual show.
Yes.
Too, so,
and you get a shout out in the audio podcast too, which is
Mhm.
nice. It's always nice to have your name mentioned, I hope. Speaking of shouting out, shout out to our closed caption person. Thank you very much for your hard work because
Thank
we
you
talk
very
really
much.
fast. And some of the people in the chat are saying this is the best week in tech. Armando Fernandez is saying that. I'm like, no,
maybe for you guys, for those of us who have to like sit here and deconstruct all this stuff, like it's pretty crazy. Yeah,
it's not even just us. It's like our poor video team who has to handle this stream and tomorrow's stream, and then Thursday we have a stream. Everyone.
Yeah.
The PR people who work for these companies too.
Mo A is asking, Sony has an event that is next week, I believe.
That's what we're hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're hearing we heard something about October 19th, and then we heard something about October 20 something. So it's a little like, yeah. Sunny Brown says DJI event. I'm sorry. We can't even. We
please
don't
talk to Richard Lai at Engadget.
Or James True.
Yeah.
So plenty going on this week. And probably next week too. And then we all get to crash very hard and eat turkey here in America.
Is that oh god? I mean, that's a ways away, Sherlyn.
I don't
the
care.
end of November.
Teleporting. I am not working November. I don't care.
First,
we
will crash and eat candy on Halloween. How about that? We will just gorge ourselves on candy, and that'll power us through to Thanksgiving.
Not to brag, but Halloween is my birthday, so I will definitely already
not a spooky sign of anything. Thank you, folks, for joining us. I think we can.
I mean, unless there are more questions, because we really went deep already into the Macs. Do you guys have any more questions? If not, we're probably going to bounce and do all the work that we have to do.
But tell people where to find us on the internet.
Also that. But it looks like people are just talking about Bitcoin now, which is always a sign to leave.
No, I'm going to block you immediately.
Yes. So quick. Before I wrap everything up, a quick shout out to everyone that's been here today. Armando Fernandez, Michael Brusher Jr., Mo A, Colin K, Rick James. We've got Adi Ravishankar, Buddy 305 Love, Gonzalo Costa, Hash Browns, Name Checks Out, Mongu, The Bite Walker, King Kai, Chris Angelo Perez, Sandeep Macau. Lots and lots of you. We love seeing you. Our regulars like Jonathan Anderson and Mark Dell, we also love seeing you. Please come back tomorrow and Thursday to the Engadget YouTube channel to just hang, and we can't wait to chat with you some more. So if you want, you can find me on the internet. I'm on Twitter at Sherlyn Low Devendra. How about you?
Hey, yeah, you can find me at Devindra on Twitter as well. I also do a movie podcast, so come listen to that. But most importantly, come listen to the Engadget podcast. Subscribe to us, review us.
Absolutely.
You can hear more of this banter. We have some really cool guests, and actually, I've been listening to last week's episode where we had Manda Farah on from the Virtual Economy
Mm,
podcast, and that was a really cool discussion about the Twitch hack, which a lot of
yes.
people aren't actually clear about, like what that means. So go check out that episode, folks.
Get educated. Obi Dean and Declan Flynn, we see you too. Vignesh Nalama, we're gonna save your question for the podcast episode. So come back then. We're just not taking more questions now.
Okay.
Also, thanks to our video team, Julio Barrientos, Luke Brooks, and Kyle
Thank
Mack,
you.
and also
Hello.
executive editor Aaron Suporis for fact checking us very responsibly. All right, we'll see you guys soon. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Bye.
Later. Bye.